Good evening. Welcome to Good Guys Sports. I'm Jackson Gerke alongside with our co-hosts Blake Gerke and Mike Roby, and we'll get to a lot of topics in a second. We will talk about some uh, other sports, including college football and the NFL as well as in the NBA and NHL. But I want to start off with the World Series, with the Texas Rangers being the best road team overall, formerly known as the Washington Journals, as Uncle Mike would say. They were by far the best road team this postseason and have scored first, and gone 11-0 when they scored first in each, when they had the lead, for both teams actually. But the Rangers just turns out to be the better team in that series, and I just think that shows you how dominant and really how strong Corey Seager was, especially when he steps to the plate on how his bat gets hot and just starts hitting the balls out of the park. And that's one of the reasons why this makes this team so dangerous. And on the other hand, you got a Diamondbacks team that just that had a great postseason run, just ended up falling short to the Rangers. Now, this is a great now as much as the series turns out. We all know about how Max Scherzer and Garcia just were some of his injuries and were made it out for the rest of the series. There were talks about that, and then think about this: the Rangers were ahead one game for this close to getting the division title, ended up falling short to the Astros in the AL West, but then somehow found more postseason magic and got more hitting the ball on what they have accomplished. And from what I can tell, they have been just they I've just seen some like no quit, and Bruce Bochy, who's won a couple of titles with the Giants, who now has his third. That's right, his
Three
first
with the Giants.
ring, two of the Giants, and then
So he's got four now, right?
You got four.
Wow.
so that tells you that team just when being one of the be one of the be one of be one of the top major league teams that end this drought to win their first title is definitely something to be remembered, of how you can really taste this championship, and how you just really deserved it. And I think that the Rangers really got to give them a lot of credit, because I think they really did deserve their first World Series title. And Corey Seager obviously did it before, back with the Dodgers in the 2020 COVID year. And I think that with how this World Series played out, it just really just says a lot from where this from where this World Series just turns out from where we are, compared to where we are in the recent ones that they were in recent history. So yeah, so the Rangers scored 5 runs, and they shut them out in game 5, and nobody was expecting that. And yeah, definitely yeah, it was definitely a good World Series, although maybe it would have been better off if the series were to go a bit longer. But what do you expect? Baseball season now over with, and we're gonna have to wait till like spring training, um whenever spring training rolls rolls back around, which is starting in March. But a great storybook ending for one of the great franchises to win this title, and they deserve it. And written in the history books, and the Rangers have finally done it.
Yeah.
Mike, your
Yeah,
thoughts?
the Rangers were no hit for the first 6 innings last night.
I know.
It's a strange game, wasn't it?
I mean, the Rangers starter Uh, he he got out of some jams. I mean, it was like the first 4 innings, Diamondbacks were getting ready to score, and he got
Mike,
out of it.
first five
First
innings,
5 innings.
we had a rispy first 5 innings, a runner in scoring position. First time I had seen RISP acronym on the TV last night. We have
Yeah.
5 straight RISP innings.
Yeah. That was something. I'm gonna tell you, the Rangers were the team of destiny. Just think how good the Rangers would have been this year if DeGrom didn't go out on Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the stranger postseason runs we've seen. You could argue kind of similar to the Braves a couple years ago, where they lost a couple of their key men and made some acquisitions later in the season and ended up taking them all the way to the World Series. A bit of a similar story here with Texas, where it certainly wasn't the big money signings they made over the winter that ended up paving the way. It was, well, I guess Seager was a big acquisition for them and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it was not exactly a straightforward path for Texas this year, was it?
No, and then you have Evan Carter, a rookie, setting the record for the most doubles in the playoffs. He hit 9 doubles in the playoffs.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was yeah, it was. I tell you, if I was a team, I'd probably go. Somebody needs to sign Will Smith.
Right, because he's been on 3 straight postseason rosters.
Three straight World Series winners, starting with the Braves and the Astros, and now
So safe to
now the
say
Rangers.
he's not going to be signing for the Athletics next year.
Probably not.
But guys, how's Jada going to feel about that? We got to keep her in mind. How would Jada feel about that?
Different, I think it's a different Will Smith, although
Different Will Smith. Okay,
Different
got it.
Will
Heard.
Smith.
there'll probably
Yeah,
be like 3 Will
Oh,
Smiths.
okay.
This guy's coming out of the
got it.
bullpen.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it's interesting postseason. The fact that it only went to 5 games as well is a bit unusual. Usually most, I feel like most series and the past couple series as well, like went to 6 and 7 games in the CS as well. So it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if it captivated a national audience per se. This World Series, but it was certainly a strange playoffs in general, I feel like, with the teams that ended up getting there, and then the fact that a team like Philadelphia was so hot and they beat the best team in baseball, and then all of a sudden they got beat by the next story, which is the upstart Diamondbacks, and then they ended up not really putting up too much of a fight in the their pitching was okay in this particular series. But yeah, all in all, pretty strange postseason, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, Texas won every single road game
That's crazy.
they played, and they hit a home run in 16 straight postseason games. That streak is still alive
Yeah.
because they hit a home run in the top of the 9th last night. So that streak is still alive. Yeah.
If you can do that in the playoffs consistently, you're going to be hard to beat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I was looking today, the teams that have free agents up. Of course, Montgomery is a free agent for the Rangers, but they don't have a whole lot of other free agents. So it's going to be an interesting off season.
Yeah, it feels like one of those years where, like, I don't know, I'd be surprised if Texas is able to replicate this, just because it just seems like such like a one-off playoffs where, like, I would be shocked if either of these teams even makes it to the CS next year, let alone the World Series with Arizona and Texas. But I wouldn't dare make a prediction for next year based off how unpredictable the playoffs were this year, right? So
talk about parity, though. I mean, parity in baseball. 2 years ago, the Rangers lost 102 games, and now they're the world champs.
Well, yeah, and the if you look at the odds, the top two odds are to win the World Series next year aren't even either team. It's the Braves and the Dodgers. And
Yeah,
then you've got like Astros, Phillies, Rangers.
yeah,
Diamondbacks are not even anywhere close
yeah,
to the top of that list. So that just goes to show, like we were
yeah.
saying, how different of a year it ended up being.
I think the so Dodgers are one of those teams with a lot of free agents. I think I think the majority of their pitching staff is free agents now.
Yeah, yeah, they're always one of those team, Dodgers and Yankees, right? That has a lot of turnover given their high payroll, right? And
Yeah.
so obviously a team like the Yankees, obviously that had a really disappointing season, will be looking to make a lot of changes to their rosters, similar to LA.
Mhm.
And I'm sure teams at the top like the Braves, Astros are going to try and definitely make those tweaks that will take them over the line next year. So
Yeah. Well, the Braves just signed Jimenez again to a 3-year deal.
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And last week they signed Johnson to a 2-year deal for keep their bullpen intact.
Yeah.
And those look like a lot of Braves are up for a Silver Slugger.
I know, yeah, I know. It's so weird because there's so many players had exceptional individual seasons and it kind of fell flat, but that's just kind of sport. So
Yeah.
obviously there's no reason you can't celebrate a great regular season given
Yeah.
how long it is. So
Well, once the commissioner gets your letter, I'm sure things will
yeah, it must be a lot of postage delays going on right now, but expect to see at the winter meetings some movement on the
I
revamped playoff format under my guidance.
Guys, I heard the Texas GM and president sent the all the other GMs and owners a letter that said, and it was real short and sweet. It just said, "Scared money don't make money," and said you got to sign some big players. And there you go.
yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, they signed at the right time. I think you got to take Max kind of out of the equation, but Montgomery certainly helped them. And they got yeah, Montgomery helped them. Somebody else slipped my mind, but yes, indeed. I wonder if Max will come back or retire.
So he'll still be under contract with Texas, right?
He's still under contract with Texas. Yeah,
I mean,
he'll
maybe
probably
they'll.
come back.
Well, I mean, his contract is massive, right? So why would he not come back, right?
Yeah,
We'll
I
see
think I.
how healthy he can. Maybe they'll just keep him on like a limited sort of thing and not
Mhm.
overuse him if they're in the playoff hunt and stuff like that. Like to see, but yeah, he's old. You can't really rely on somebody quite that old. We saw him break down this series, obviously. But
Yeah, I mean yeah, he's not like Max of old.
if they're gonna bet on DeGrom and Scherzer being their aces next year,
Yeah.
then they just need to look at
Well,
how that worked out for the Mets.
yeah, they say DeGrom's not going to pitch until 2025
Okay, yeah, there you
because
go.
of Tommy John.
Well, they didn't even need him, so they can just
Yeah,
they can just get rid of him. Yeah,
so maybe they'll go after Snell.
yeah, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Obviously, they're not afraid to spend money.
Yeah,
As we saw this year. So.
yeah,
But like we said, it wasn't really the big spending acquisitions that got them over the line. So maybe you're better off just you know, investing in younger players and then getting a few acquisitions kind of on the margins kind of thing later in the year, sort of thing, which I'm assuming a lot of the bigger teams like the Braves, Dodgers, and Astros will probably they have their young. Although to be fair, Dodgers are kind of sneaky old, aren't they, though? Because
Mm-hmm.
they don't really they're compared to like the Braves roster. Or I mean even the Phillies have a couple guys who are a little bit younger, but yeah, the Dodgers kind
Yeah.
of have to do something because they're
Well,
like the
they're
guys like Freeman
yeah.
and Betts and stuff like that. They're all kind of in their 30s
Yeah.
and 30 plus, right? So
But they're some of the only ones on the Dodgers who aren't free agents. JD is a free agent.
right.
Muncie's a free agent.
Hmm.
Uria's a free agent. Alex Wood's a free agent.
Yeah.
Kershaw, but I think Kershaw.
Well,
I think he's like Max.
maybe they
They've
should just
seen
move him to the bullpen.
they've seen better days.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. I mean, the Phillies got Reyes Hoskins as a free agent. Of course, he was out all last year with ACL tear. Nola's a free agent. They're going to have to decide what they're going to do with Harper. Are they going to put him back out in the outfield? They got a pretty stacked outfield. Or are they going to make him DH or put him back on first?
Yeah, maybe they should just make him clean the clubhouse
There you go.
after the jinx that he put on him this last.
Well, after they lose to the Braves, it'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no, it was I'd say all in all, obviously, as from a personal point of view, the season ended on a sour note for my ball club, but overall the MLB season I enjoyed because it's about the journey, not the destination, right? At least for me anyway. So I enjoyed watching my ball club this year. Uncle Mike, maybe for your review of the season, you would say it's mixed because obviously you're supporting a rebuilding club, but optimism for next year, right?
I'm very optimistic for the Nationals, the way they played since the All-Star break. They got a lot of young talent coming in. I think overall the new rules that baseball put in play this year
Absolutely, yeah.
really helped the game.
Absolutely.
I was a little hesitant about the pitch clock, but that worked out fine, and the pizza boxes for bases really. So I think kudos to the rules committee for
Yeah, I mean
putting
that
this
ended up
in.
being kind of one of the bigger talking points of the whole season, was the positive reaction to the rule change. So credit to the league for that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm optimistic about 2024. I'm ready to get started.
When spring training start?
Middle of February.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the meantime. So speaking of which, should we shift over
Yeah.
to a little football talk, Jackson?
Yeah, let's do it. So let's start off with some college football right now, and there was a now there were some rumors and reports that I want to get to. That Duke's quarterback Ryan Leonard is out for an extended period of time. In a late game supper against Louisville on Saturday, and they now have to put that. They now have to play. They now have to host Wake Forest this upcoming tonight, I think. So
In 2 hours.
yeah, so
Not a good sign.
no, not at all. And playing against a Wake team, it's a Wake team that's 4-4. You got a Duke team that's 5-3, and I'm not really sure if I feel confident heading into tonight's matchup from the way that I from the standpoint that I'm seeing with this with where this team is currently than when they were off to a great start when they were undefeated. Now have lost their last three, and it's been up and down kind of season for the Blue Devils, and it's going to be hard to get this turned around, but it would be nice if they were to get this win against Wake Forest, and maybe they'll just bounce back and just get back on the winning column eventually. But yeah, it's a huge blow for losing one of your top quarterbacks in the ACC, and it's going to be it's tough, and I'm not even sure if you can if you can find a way to replace him, because whoever your next starting quarterback is, if he's out, then and I'm not sure if I feel very confident. But I don't think Duke is this. It is quite the same without Riley Leonard as your starting two.
Now the only thing that Wake Forest got beat pretty good by Florida State last weekend, and at least Duke is playing at home. Tell you, that club that's on the decline's got to be Clemson. Clemson lost last week to NC State, and this weekend they've got Notre Dame traveling down to play Clemson. So
Yeah, they're in
You
trouble.
know, they
Yeah.
they moved that game. That was going to be a night game, and now they're kicking off at noon. So that just shows you where the networks think that
Exactly,
game's
yeah.
at right now.
Yeah.
wow.
I mean, I think it's good for the conference to have some new teams. I don't know. I mean, Florida State's not really a new team per se. It would have been much better if, in my opinion, if Duke was at the top of the table there. Obviously I'm a little biased, but good to see, it's good to see Louisville doing fairly well. And to the game tonight, I think luckily, like Mike was saying, it's a home game. Wake Forest is not a particularly fearful opponent in terms of ACC competition. 1-4 in the conference, so 4-4 overall. But I think even without Leonard, they should have enough quality to get past the Demon Deacons tonight. Obviously, they'll be up for it. It's an in-state game. Bit of a rivalry. Anytime you're playing an in-state opponent like that, particularly on a televised game on ESPN and such. So I think that Duke will have just enough to get by without Leonard, but I don't think it will be pretty. I don't think it'll be a blowout, high scoring, anything like that. I would expect it to be pretty low scoring affair. Temperatures will be a little cold tonight. So keep that in mind, even though it's in North Carolina, temperature is starting to drop a little bit, as I'm sure everyone knows. So won't be terrible conditions, but will be a little cold. So maybe not slinging the ball around too much, but I do think Duke will have just enough to get by, though.
Yeah. Well, another ACC team that's on the decline is what happened to UNC.
Yeah, it's from
Georgia Tech scored 22 points in the fourth quarter to beat them 46-42.
Yeah, they were off to a great start. They were undefeated. They were off to a great start, but then all of a sudden
they're not even a ranked team anymore.
They dropped out of the race.
The ACC is going downhill.
Yeah.
To Virginia and Georgia Tech, and since then, I mean, they were unbeaten, but since then, they were off to a great start and were unbeaten. But since then, they were just going on a bit of a downhill, and just to me, I feel like they're just falling off they feel like they're just falling off a cliff, and that's what's going on with UNC right now. Is that they were off to a great start, but so far have lost their last two games. So far, heading into week 10, but yeah, UNC is just I would say they're on a bit of a roller coaster ride at the moment.
I would agree. So Jack, what games are you honing in on for this weekend? What's the must-watch game?
Oh, right. So yeah, so my marquee matchup that I have circled is the LSU Alabama at Bryant Denny. That one's a night game. Unlike the Notre Dame Clemson game, that was like BL Lineberger mentioned about moving it from the nice late to noon. He did mention about that earlier about compared to like Alabama and LSU under the lights and Bryant-Denny. Doesn't get any better, and going to be it's going to be a heck of a game to watch, and on both sides of the ball, and going up against the great legend of Nick Saban, and they are they are they're right now atop the lead right now in the SEC West standings. Although LSU is right there, but maybe Ole Miss is in the mix. So I think that's where things stand right now. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's yeah, you got a yeah, so you got a 6-2 LSU team and 7-1 Alabama State team in Bryant-Denny, who is lead by their passing QB yards of Jalen Milroe, who is by far their most dominant and most passing touchdowns combined on this team, led by Jace McKay and Jerome Burton, who leads the conference in receiving yards, and I think that tells you how great of an Alabama team is and where they and where things stand for where this for where this for where this team is currently heading into this matchup for where things are right now with this team.
Yeah, that's always a great game, even though you wouldn't say either team is in college football playoff contention right now, but historically LSU Alabama has always been one of the bigger games in college football. Big rivals, of course, over the years. Two big coaches now there, and Brian Kelly and Nick Saban that big personalities. I'm sure there'll be lots of passion in that one for sure on Saturday night. I think Alabama being at home will give them the edge in that one. They've definitely rebounded nicely from their shaky start. It seems like Jackson was saying, they found their quarterback after a little deliberation. Also interesting game that I saw on Saturday night as well was Washington heading down to LA to play USC at the Coliseum. It's an interesting game. I think that's USC's obviously season has gone downhill, but hosting a top 5 opponent there could be a bit of a motivation for Caleb Williams and the Trojans to kind of get their season back on track. So they're certainly going to have a lot of motivation against the Huskies at home on Saturday evening. So definitely keep an eye out for that one. Speaking of the Heisman, who do we think is in the lead for the Heisman right now? Do we know?
I mean, is it too early to say right now that we're already in November, or I'm not even sure who has the odds of winning the Heisman Trophy for the season.
So I think right now, strangely enough, the favorite would be the quarterback from Washington, Penix, and then after that, it's just JJ McCarthy from Michigan, the Jaden Daniels from LSU, and then Bo Nix from Oregon. It's not exactly like a classic Heisman field there, is it? It seems like it's still there to be grabbed, the award, should you say. So I think if Washington goes undefeated, Penix would have a good chance at it for sure, similarly to Michigan. Bo Nix maybe still alive as well. There's talk about Marvin Harrison, receiver from Ohio State. Usually receiver doesn't win it unless they end up having big outstanding season. Probably that Michigan-Ohio State game at the end of the year might tell us something about the playoffs and the Heisman as well.
You think maybe Bo Nix? It seems like he's kind of the latest great. It seems like Bo Nix. I mean, he's tearing it up, and I don't know. It seems like are the big analysts not saying he's the clear favorite right now, the top runner, or is still Penix?
I think if Oregon was if they had ended up beating Washington, you probably would flip that around to say Knicks would be the favorite and Penix would be like a top 5. But because Washington ended up getting that victory over Oregon and they're still undefeated, whereas Oregon has one loss, we'll see what happens this weekend and the rest of the month. But it really just comes down to are you in playoff contention? Are you undefeated? That's kind of how college football works, right? It's really whittling down the teams to see who's going to still be alive for the championship, and that obviously has a huge effect on the Heisman. But in terms of like names and like recognizable players on that Heisman list, yeah, I think right now Bo Nix would be probably the only like big name. Oregon's got a pretty easy game at home against Cal this weekend. So who knows? Maybe if Washington gets upset by USC and Oregon takes care of business, there might be some flip-flopping there. But the fact that Washington won that head-to-head game was massive for them. So difficult for me to see Nix taking over that spot from Penix right now.
He's got some crazy stats. The way everybody talks, he's been in the league for 14 years, even though I think it's been like 5. I think he's got the most starts of a quarterback of anybody in college football right now in Division I. Pretty crazy.
Bo Nix, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think we had mentioned that before. Yeah, he's certainly racking up quite the college career, that's for sure.
He's probably the oldest.
I would venture to say so. Yeah.
Minus the BYU guys who all take like 3 years after high school from Michigan and then come back as 21-year-olds as their freshman year.
You would have thought they'd be better with that, huh?
Yeah, and
so Jackson, I wanted to ask you because this was the first week of the college football playoff rankings.
I'm looking at
and so I wanted to ask you what you think of these new rankings. Obviously, we have the AP poll every week, but and this was the first week, right, Jack? I'm not making that up.
No, you're right.
Okay. And so if I don't know if anybody didn't see it, I can recap it. But obviously right now, this current system, the top 4 teams get in. So we have Ohio State at 1, Georgia at 2, Michigan at 3, Florida State at 4, then Washington and Oregon at 5 and 6 respectively. Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma kind of on the edges there. So essentially what you're looking at is the winner of Ohio State and Michigan getting in that top 4. And then if Florida State and Washington win the rest of their games, and that would make up the 4 of Ohio State, Georgia, Florida State, and Washington, Ohio State / Michigan in that scenario. Unless, obviously, of course, that Georgia and Florida State or Washington get upset throughout the remainder of the season here. But pretty standard rankings, I would say. Like I don't think have any huge arguments with that. Maybe I would say Washington currently being at 5th, given the fact that they've had a good win over Oregon. Would you say like Florida State has a quality wins over the likes of LSU, Clemson, I guess Duke as well. Maybe they're not as quality as a win now as they used to be, but I don't know. Jackson, do you have any big arguments with the rankings, or they look fair enough to you?
Yeah. So the reason why Ohio State is number 1 is because of a big win on a what was the last play of the game on at Notre Dame. That was one of their marquee wins on their schedule. They obviously just beat Wisconsin last week in where at Wisconsin, which wasn't even a close game. And so they beat Penn State, which is a blowout for them. And they won at Purdue. They won against the unranked teams in the conference. I mean, Wisconsin against ranked Penn State is also one of them. So I look at Ohio State. Notre Dame and Penn State is really is really
Yeah, they're
what
good wins.
they're good quality wins for what the committee likes about for where the team is at now that they're at the top team in the college football rankings, and that it shows you how this team always just like blows out teams that are like not that great in the conference, and until and so like they usually are for in that conference for those teams, but until you get to the Michigan game where it is going to be a bit of a close game kind of feel compared to the rest of the games on your schedule. And like you said, it is going to decide the college football playoff to see how those all scenarios work and where it all stands on how this all plays out for when these teams meet at the end of November, which should be very fun to very fun to watch and interesting to see how this plays out when the two of them square off towards the end of the season, which it always is. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure. And as for Georgia, yeah, they had a great win against Florida in the against Florida in Jacksonville, and yeah, they were without Brock Bowers, but they still found a way to win and get their next man up and still put points on the board, and they really know how, and they really still find ways to win despite Bowers' absence. And I think that he really just it really just shows you how great this Georgia team is. They've won back-to-back national champions. Now they're unbeaten, and but you got a couple of tough games ahead. Ahead you got Missouri, and then Ole Miss, and then this one gets really interesting. You're at Tennessee and Neyland on November 18th. So
Tough place to go.
absolutely, there's going to be a lot to be said here for what this rest of the college football season plays out, especially when things get a bit tougher, especially if you're one of those top teams trying to stay unbeaten, and then realize you'll always find a way to win, but it isn't always going to be pretty, and you are going to be in something called a tough slate, and that's where I think things get a bit dicier, and I think that and be a bit of a challenge for the end of the year, and that is where I think flyings get in. That's where I find it gets interesting, and your teams going to those hostile environments that you're going to be in. That's just going to be another factor, and that's something you're going to have to deal with if you are one of those teams. And my advice is just to beware, and but if it all goes plan, great. But if it doesn't, then there's going to be a lot of question marks. But I think Georgia will find a way to get it done for the rest of the schedule. But like I said, it's going to be tough and not going to be easy. But
Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a couple games for a lot of these teams that ends up these undefeated teams, these whatever the 5 remaining undefeated teams that ends up giving them trouble that we don't necessarily think. So like Jack mentioned a few like Tennessee, Ole Miss for Georgia. Obviously Michigan and Ohio State have to play each other. Could be this weekend that Washington, steps on a banana peel and down there in LA. Florida State, I don't necessarily see having any issues with the remainder of their schedule. Obviously, they got in-state games against Florida, Miami and Florida. So those aren't gimmies, but like we said, the ACC seems like the quality has gone down week after week. So wouldn't shock me if they end up running the slate, but there's going to be some upsets coming, guys. So just keep your eyes open because there's going to be some upsets coming.
Any upset watches for this coming weekend?
Yeah, so I keep mentioning the Washington game. I'm not sure I'm going to actually pick them to be upset because I do think they have a great quarterback play from Penix that probably get them over the hump there. How do you feel about your Terps taking on Penn State at home? You got that one circled or no?
Nittany Lions will win.
You're not
No
gonna
problem.
you're
Hands
not gonna
down.
pick them, yeah.
Yeah, the poor Terps lost to Northwestern last weekend. So I don't see Maryland. It's you know, they're looking forward to Monday's start of basketball season.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I
Yeah.
think for my upset, I'm gonna pick against Coach Prime in Boulder, I think. And I'm gonna take oh wait, never mind. That's not an upset.
Oregon State. Yeah,
Well, they're favored.
They're 16. They're a favorite.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't think Colorado will win that one. I think their
No.
season's kind of over.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. What's the spread for Clemson Notre Dame? Probably not huge, right? I think it's
It is I got it right here. It's a 6.5 spread according to ESPN Analytics in favor of the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame.
right. I think they'll win that game, honestly. Clemson looks pretty bad. I don't know. I'm not seeing any big upsets this week, Mike. I'm gonna be honest. I don't.
Okay.
Maybe you would think LSU would get a result in Tuscaloosa. I personally don't see that happening.
I got one for you.
Go ahead.
Aggies beating Old Miss
The Aggies
in Old Miss.
I feel like we've picked the Aggies a couple times this season. They keep letting us down, but you're backing them in Oxford this week.
Yeah, and then I got another long shot.
Okay,
Kansas State
I saw that one. Yeah,
at Texas.
Kansas State winning their Kansas State winning their last matchup last season. Now the Longhorns try to seek for revenge at home against their what was last season's Big 12 championship. Now try to seek redemption from last season.
Yeah. Well, they got to win before Texas joins the SEC next year.
Which will be fascinating, by the way, given the fact that it's going to make things bigger and better and more exciting games to come for those conferences, like expansion for the Big 10, SEC, and what was formerly going to be the Pac-12 going into bankruptcy and going to be out of business, and now all of a sudden, like you mentioned about Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC, like think about it this way, like let's say if Oklahoma travels to our alma mater of South Carolina at Williams-Brice. I mean, how great of a game would that be if we were to attend? I mean, that would be just an example of that, of a piece of that right there, which I feel like is going to be one of them. You compare that to let's say Texas going to Georgia and Athens. I think kind of the same thing. So I feel like there's something to be said for merging conferences is going to really going to have to bring for us for the 2024 season. I feel like there's a lot to be said for what this for what the future lies ahead for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jackson, let me ask you this: what's going to happen to Spencer Rattler? I mean, he was all the hype, and is a team going to take a chance on him? Top guy in high school, #1 overall in high school, and now his college has been a crazy ride. I think his eligibility's done. I believe. Do you guys think he's going to get picked up by an NFL team? I mean, it's kind of an interesting situation down there.
It's possible, but I haven't heard any rumors about that. But most likely, I think if he does get drafted this year, in this year's in the 2020 in the upcoming class, and I think that he'll whichever team he goes and gets selected by, I think that he'll have a great career no matter where he goes, which is my opinion.
Well, the Panthers don't need a quarterback. Bryce Young played well last weekend there. Blake,
we gotta win. We gotta
they
win.
gotta
Listen,
win.
they got no reason to lose. I mean, people think with them giving up the first round pick, it's finally a fun time to watch them because they're actually trying to win every game, which makes it even more funny when they lose so bad. But yeah, they got a good win. Charlotte was halfway full, and hopefully we can be 3/4 next game.
Yeah, they did all right. Yeah. Yeah, CJ Stroud threw a interception, and Bryce Young was 245 passing yards with no interceptions and 1 or 2 touchdowns. So they did all right.
Yeah, it's funny that they talked mostly during the game about CJ Stroud, even though the Panthers won. The announcers were really high on CJ Stroud. So interesting. I think, guys, breaking news. I think Brandon Miller lives in my apartment building. So if you guys need any intel on the Charlotte Hornets, I'll try to bring the latest and greatest. Okay, so just a heads up on that.
All right. What kind of high-end apartment building are you in?
Well, I saw a Lamborghini SUV pulling the bottom, and I redirected myself down there. And then when I got in the elevator, 2 6'9" guys got beside me, and I'm thinking they got to be too tall for the NBA. And I looked up the Hornets roster, and I think one of them was Brandon Miller. So we'll see.
Well, as long as you can get some ticks.
There we go. Not a big NBA guy, but I might have to turn into one. Go watch him a little bit.
There you go.
Now, let me ask you, Uncle Mike.
Ever
follow any? Do you guys ever follow any other DC sports other than the Commanders and Nationals? Do you guys ever go to or attend, or ever have you and Rory ever have the desire to go to any Wizards or Capital games that are any home games? You ever have the budget or ever desire to go to any of them?
We've gone to a couple. We've gone to a Capitals game and a Wizards game. We don't make it as frequent as the Nationals.
You guys got a great hockey team, Mike. You ought to.
I know.
You ought to be a hockey fan for a while. That's your winning team right there.
Yeah.
That's the ace in the hole.
Well, it's funny when they won the Stanley Cup. I was teaching at Georgetown.
Oh, that's cool.
And the campus was 2 or 3 blocks away from the Capital One Arena, and all these Capital fans were just taking over the street. It was a lot of fun.
Now they had to walk there and get an Uber because there is no metro stop in Georgetown, correct?
Well, this was the School of Continuing Studies, which is downtown.
Okay.
So
that was a big beef when I was in DC. No metro stop in Georgetown.
Yeah, no, it's not. The only thing in Georgetown are the Exorcist stairs.
Oh, okay.
Those stairs in that old movie are in Georgetown. But yeah, there's no metro.
No metro.
Going to to Georgetown.
Big point of contention.
Yeah. No, I have to follow the Capitals. I think going to be an interesting year for the Wizards for their rebuilding. So.
Yeah, true. Jackson, are you a big hockey fan?
I am because our team we follow is the Carolina Hurricanes, which is your local team. Because obviously you being in North Carolina, like me and Blake are, so we kind of have to be probably have to be a fan because we follow them, and it's across the street from where Blake's from his apartment that he's he's currently residing in, and I think that's probably the team that we root for currently right now. So that's who I think we're
Yeah, they're off to a good start. They're one of the favorites, so it's a good team to support right now, the Hurricanes. So still early, but they've certainly got one of the better rosters in the league, I would say.
Yeah, I would I'll have to agree with you there. And although I have to argue they actually might be a little better than the Hornets, but I might be being a little biased, or just that's just pretty, but that's just going to be my opinion right there. But I think
I'm
well,
going to tell
listen,
Brandon
in terms,
said that, Jackson.
I'm
go
not,
ahead.
but I think we have our own opinions on this when it comes like to our favorite locally supported professional sports teams in our area. I just think we have different opinions on this.
Well, you root for both. One's in basketball, one's in hockey.
Very true.
Well,
Guys,
yeah.
I'm sure you talked about this right before I got on the program. But Gardner Webb had a huge win. We had 2 undefeateds in the conference go head to head after Gardner Webb had a slow start to the season. I'm sure Mike gave him the baseball talk. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. I think he was in the locker room. And so they turned it around, beat the undefeated. Instead of kicking a field goal to tie the game, they went for it on 4th and goal, scored the touchdown to go ahead, and now they got another big game this weekend. So good news on the Gardner Webb front. I'm sure you guys already covered that, but just wanted to throw that out there.
No guts, no glory.
No guts, no glory.
Yeah, that's great. How's the soccer team?
They actually made the playoffs. So we had a small conference of 8 teams. 4 teams make the playoffs. So all you have to do, it's good and bad. You only got to win 2 games to go to the NCAAs. So they got their first game against Old High Point near Blake also. And so if they win this game, they can win the next one. They're the only team to either tie or beat High Point all season. So we'll see.
Well, if they lose, they can bring back a bunch of furniture.
That's true. Furniture capital of the world. You were right about that.
There you go. A wardrobe for your troubles.
All right, real quick before we get ourselves out of here.
So no Commanders talked, huh?
Yeah. Tell you what, you guys had I'll tell you what, you guys have suffered another tough loss to the Eagles. Also a close game, except this one didn't go to overtime. But yeah,
shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Just shoulda, woulda, coulda in the NFC least you guys are in.
Yeah,
got to change their ownership. Although question marks about Sam Howell, or they should have, or I feel like one of there should have used a different quarterback. But now, yeah, it's a really tough one to solve for your.
Sam Howell played good. I would say he played as well as Eagles quarterback. He had a one bad throw when we didn't need it, but Eagles dropped the ball twice in the red zone. So Hal did okay.
Yeah.
Right after the game, the Commanders jettisoned and traded both starting defensive ends.
Yeah,
safe to say they know they're not going to be competing this year.
I feel bad for Monty's Sweat. He was traded to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, that's a strange one, isn't it? I understand Chase Young going to the 49ers, but why are the Bears trading for people?
What? Yeah, why are the Bears trading for people? And they got a second-round draft pick for him. He was going to be a free agent at the end of the year anyway, and that rumors were they weren't going to re-sign him, so get something for him. And I think they did. But it's like,
Yeah, I don't understand that
Who
from the
did he
Bears'
make mad? He
perspective.
made somebody mad.
yeah, it's like, dude, you're going to the Bears. At least Chase Young went to the 49ers.
Yeah, exactly. Like
You know,
that makes sense.
that
But yeah,
that makes
that's
sense.
They're on a whole nother level, despite losing their last few games to the Vikings and to the Bengals, which unexpectedly no one saw this coming with Joe Burrow showing up
Yeah.
and upsetting the top one of the top teams in the NFC. No
Well,
one, no one,
yeah.
that uh,
Speaking of the Vikings, that may be where Rattler ends up going because Captain Kirk busted his AC or his Achilles tendon.
He did, and that stinks because they were starting to kind of turn it on, right? I mean, they were looking
Yeah,
good.
I know. I guess he didn't want Aaron Rodgers to have all the limelight.
Oh man, yeah.
Man, that was awful. So who's going to we got a couple good games coming up. You got the Dolphins against the Chiefs.
that's the big one in Sunday morning in Germany.
Germany, yeah. I tell you, Taylor Swift is going to have to show up so the Chiefs can win.
Is
How
there
great was the interview
She
with the
did.
Dolphins coach, where they asked him if he knew about the kid dressing up as him for Halloween, and he was honestly perplexed that anybody even knows who he is or would dress up for him for Halloween. It's a great interview if you haven't seen it. He thinks that the press is telling him a story, and he doesn't believe that a kid dressed up with him and did the classic run as well.
That's hilarious. I have to see that.
It'll be
That's
interesting to see
funny.
how the German fans come out if they support, if they show up and support the football. I think they will, but we'll see how it happens. First
Yeah.
game over there, right?
I think so. I mean, they've been playing at Wembley for the last few years, so I think this is the first one in Germany, other than the NFL Europe when they were playing.
If the Jaguars are London's team, who is Germany going to pick up? What makes sense for them?
I heard that a lot of the NFL fans in Europe, I was telling my dad this recently, that similar to like they get like the one big game of the week. So for so long, because the Patriots were so good under Tom Brady, that ended up being like the one game that was shown every week in Europe. So a lot of fans over there are Patriots fans. Probably not right now because they're not very good, but I'm assuming they follow a lot of the bigger quarterbacks, the bigger names. So there's probably some Chiefs fans with
Yeah.
Mahomes and stuff. But yeah, they honestly got a great game out there. Two really exciting teams to watch. So that'll be a fun one.
Yeah. What about the Raiders firing their coach and GM this week?
Yeah, that was kind of overdue. They were on hiding to nothing, as they say,
Yeah.
out there in Vegas. So
Mm. Well, the big game, I think it's going to be the Cowboys and the Eagles.
yep.
Yep.
It's a classic matchup, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah.
trust that
Do you think
one.
any Cowboys fans are excited about that game?
Yeah, they are, but going into this tough Philadelphia crowd where we all know those fans are going to be where we all know where this crowd up in the link is going to be a bunch of boo birds up there, and they're gonna be just bunch of fans that like to curse and do a bunch of massive standard are just on a whole nother level. So with the Cowboys,
Jack, I hope we don't have any Philly fans that follow our show.
I know, but those Cowboys,
Look, no, Jackson, the Philly fans, yes, they get a little heated, but they're very passionate and they support their teams. So
that's the word I was looking for. They're the
Passionate.
fan base.
yeah. That's probably the best way to describe it, I would say.
But the Cowboys to try to get a win at the Lincoln Philadelphia is not going to be easy. It's the line says Philadelphia, but if Dak Prescott and the Cowboys have a great game and don't turn the ball over too much, and have a great game against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, then who knows? And maybe he'll get lucky enough to still win after making South Philly, but you never know. But I wouldn't bet against it, but those certainly wouldn't count the Cowboys, despite
Yeah.
that Prescott is playing on a kind of up and down level, but he's still a great top quarterback in
Well, it's gonna be almost a must win for the Cowboys. They don't want to fall 2 games back.
If they want to have any chance in that division still, then
Yeah, if they want to win the
for sure.
division.
For sure.
beat the Eagles.
And
Yeah, if you want to even stay in this thing
yeah,
and somehow staying on top. So that's definitely the one we're definitely eyeing on for sure for this NFL marquee matchup. Now that one I would probably trust, but your team, Mike, is heading to the Patriots at Foxborough. That's not going to be a great place to win, because we all know Bill Belichick likes to shut down offensive teams out there in Foxborough. A tough place to play. Also a loyal, passionate fan base. Plus, we have family up there, up in that. They'll probably stay up now, and that I'm telling them right now that if they're hearing from us and for hearing from them, that they probably would say that the Patriots are probably going to win this game, and I would have to agree with that, because they think the Patriots are better. But again, we have different opinions on this, but I'm just going to leave it at that. So even though the Commanders' schedule looks brutally tough, and I'm not really liking what I'm seeing so far from your team, but then you have to go to the Seahawks at home game against the Giants, at the Cowboys, Dolphins, Rams, Jets, 49ers, and Cowboys. I'm not liking my chances there for your team, Mike.
I would agree. I think after the end of the season, we'll be shopping for a new head coach too.
I agree. It's about time anyway. You got your ownership now. Time for a tune-up change and
New set of tires.
get
New
the
set of tires.
new coaching staff in and get ready for a new coaching staff, and then things will be better off year after year. And I think Commanders will be fine with that.
And spring training will be here soon.
All right. I think we're out of time, Jack.
All righty.
A great way to end the show. Great as always, guys. Thanks for coming on, and Mike, great to be with you again. Blake Gerke and Blake Lineberger, great to have you guys here on Good Guy Sports. We'll talk again soon, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Sounds good, Jackson.
Thanks, everyone.
Blake, see you all. Bye.
Yes.
Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of the weekend.